Hi, and welcome back to Security Best Practices Training. I'm Marianne, your training specialist. In this video, we're going to talk about understanding the risks and mitigation for security. So what are the risks? A lot of time, people think of the direct costs of breaches. Things like sending a wire transfer to a scammer posing as a business contact, or ransomware, where they encrypt your data and say that they will release it back to you if you pay them in Bitcoin or something similar. Not so fun fact, even if you pay them, they may not release your data. However, there are a lot of potential indirect costs that can result from a security breach and not being up to date on your security. One possibility is the cost of your equipment. One technique hackers might use is to get into your systems and then use your systems to perform heavily resource-dependent tasks, such as mining for Bitcoin. This use of your computers or servers creates wear and tear on the machines, meaning they'll have to be replaced sooner, incurs greater electricity costs, and of course, if they're using your processing power, your productivity and performance will suffer. Private information is a target as well. Just think about how much information you have on your clients or HR has on your staff. They generally require a base level of privacy, and if your company leaks your staff's social security numbers, you may be liable for any issues that arise from that. I know more than one place that has had this happen, and they had to pay for LifeLock for the staff, even those who have since left the company. And of course, any breach that occurs will affect your reputation and personal standing. If a client thinks that they can't trust you with their information, they'll be less inclined to work with you in the future. Lastly, there are some legal obligations, such as GDPR, where you can be fined if you do not meet the standards of privacy. So let's talk about what your IT can do to mitigate the risks of security breaches. Obviously, we're talking about cybersecurity, so there's a lot of technology we can put in place to help prevent the likeliness of a breach. First off, let's discuss password policies. These can be mandated by your administrator for any work passwords such as email or server login. They may set up a rotation schedule where you have to change your password every couple of months. This helps because your password may have been breached and the perpetrators just haven't used it yet, so you just haven't noticed. Complexity is a very common one. If you think about it, if you only use letters, then every character in your password only has 26 possibilities. But if you use special characters, numbers, and a mix of capitals and lowercase, those possibilities substantially increase. Password length is important. Every new character you add increases the strength of your password exponentially. I see a lot of places that require a minimum of 8 characters, but truthfully, the longer the better. Last but not least is multi-factor authentication. This makes it so you don't rely only on your password for access. You may have been required to use this for online banking or other sensitive accounts. Most commonly, the second factor is a text sent to your phone or an authentication application. Then even if someone does have your password, they still can't log in without your phone and that secondary code. There's also equipment and software we can put in place. Firewalls and anti-spam can prevent malware and the like from getting into your network. They are both updated regularly so they can catch the newest threats. A firewall sits at the front of your network to filter all the traffic, and anti-spam reviews emails and removes ones that follow the obvious spam or scammer patterns before they ever get to your inbox. Antivirus should be on all your systems, as it prevents malware from taking over. One thing to note, though, is that some viruses are programmed to start by disabling antivirus. So if you get a pop-up notification that something is wrong or your antivirus has stopped working, contact your IT professional, because it could be the first step to a viral takeover. So now let's talk about what you can do. Even with all the security equipment, software, and server enforced policies that can be put in place, there's always going to be the human element. There are always going to be things that you can do to prevent or increase the security risks and breaches. Let's start with educate yourself. Welcome to Security Best Practices Training. I'm so glad you've taken the time to review this video series and learn more about what you can do to protect yourself. You're already working on this first bullet point. Well done. It's also important to know your company policies regarding security, such as password policies, server access, and information you can give out on the phone. One policy that's important to follow best practices for is sharing files and remote work. And lastly, repeat. I usually offer this training to our clients about once a year as a refresher, and to get any newcomers up to date. You can rewatch this video or take further steps to educate yourself, such as following tech news sites or our Valiant newsletter to get updates on developing technology and new threats that may emerge. And obviously protect yourself, which means use best practices at home and on your personal accounts as well. Breaches have a way of cross-contaminating from work to home and vice versa, so it's important to be ever vigilant. I recommend enabling multi-factor authentication on your personal accounts. This URL to twofactorauth.org is a good resource for finding out if companies you have an account with have this feature enabled. Don't download files or click links without verifying the sources. If you get an email with a random attachment, be wary. It might not be legitimate. Lastly, back up important data. This is the best protection against ransomware because they make it so you can't access your data. If you have a backup, you can just say, well, I don't need access to the data you encrypted. I've got it in the cloud or on this other disk. You completely get rid of their leverage. Backup is also important for recovery if your file repository is taken over or destroyed by other types of malware. Thank you for taking this section of our training. Up next, we're going to talk a little bit more of a deep dive on password security. I'll see you there.